So as you can hear and see by the level meter, we now have audio power to both channels. If you had watched the previous video, you saw the damage it was done on the left channel amplifier board. Someone had cleaned off all the Sony bond, and the corroded parts and whatnot, but I guess with all the burned up parts and whatnot, it was just a little bit too in depth of a repair for him. So this doesn't belong to me. This actually is a customer's. He bought it off of eBay, knowing, and it's one nice thing about the seller, and I appreciate it when sellers do that. He was very clear what was wrong with it, showed pictures of the burned up parts on the circuit board, and this stereo brought a considerable amount of money. I think actually if he'd just taken a picture of it without pictures of the circuit board set not working, it would have brought a lot less. So him being honest, he actually got more money, but it was clear to see. Basically, tech could look at it and get a good idea what this was going to need to get it repaired. So anyhow, customer bought this, sent it to me for repair. All of the I had the amplifier boards apart. Replaced all the electrolytic capacitors, so these are also new. All the main power supply caps, all of these small electrolytics down there, because they do get heat soaked. All the bridge rectifiers are down on the board, and of course, the transformers get hot, the heat sinks get hot. I know heat rises, but you'll still get some radiated energy, heat, thermal energy getting transmitted down onto the board. So they get hot, so all those were replaced. None of the ones in the front were changed. They use fairly good high-quality caps in this, mostly Elna or Rubicon. If you look at the underside, a lot of the boards in the front end have, now there's none on the top here, but on the bottom side, you'll see a lot of small round red electrolytic capacitors, and those are Elna audio caps. So like I say, they're all fine, and they don't get heat soaked like the ones in the rear. Parts that were changed: all of the amplifier output transistors were replaced. So had two, if I can get it out of here, come on. Two of the two SB817s were replaced, and also two what are they, Ds, I believe? Yeah, two SD1047s. One of these was bad, the other one it still worked, but it measured weak, so I always change these in pairs anyhow, so I do matched pairs, so all four of those were replaced. Bunch of other transistors were burned up. Matter of fact, not just burned up, some exploded. Like here was a 2SA1011, it actually exploded. So, bunch of resistors and diodes. You can see some of the resistors down there. They're charred. There's a little 2SA999 transistor. That one was bad also. If you test that, it actually tests as two diodes. So all those were replaced with no. Now, like I say, right now it's running through this iPod off the auxiliary position. So,
hello, Mr. Cole. No, Mr. Cole's not here.
So there's. Oh, let's go down to the local college. See what they got going. Just a bunch of yakking. The late night talk show. But anyhow, it's the local college, Mount St. Mary's, the Christian college. They have a 24-hour day, 7-day a week station, 89.9. Oh, actually, so actually he's getting ready to play another song, it sounds like. So, neat thing this has, the dual power meters, but they're adjustable in scale. So right now it's in times 0.01. So these scales, this one goes from 0 to 500, but that's times 0.01, so that's actually from 0 to 5 watts. In this, it's times 0.1, so it reads from 0 to 50 watts, and then in this position, it's times 1, it's actually just reading correctly, so it's from 0 to 500. Or in the decibel scale, starts out and goes up to plus 6 dB. So You know, the volume control, that's another thing. For some people may seem a little strange, it reads backwards, but it's actually, if you look, it's calibrated in decibels. So, you know, starts out there and then goes around to 0, because that's negative decibels. And also in decibels has a muting, so if you see me push this, you'll see it gets really quiet. Kind of like a lot of car stereos will have a mute button, so you pull up to a drive-through, you can hit the mute button. I don't know why you'd really need this on this, but it has it, so it has, you know, a mute button to quickly, so without adjusting any of your controls or your volume or anything, it just adds 20 dB worth of attenuation, basically, to the volume. So this has 3 sets of speaker outputs, so it has 6 speaker outputs total, 2 on each, you know, left and a right and they're each independently selectable. So speakers A, B, and C has a fairly nice setup for your tone controls. Has the bass, the mids, and your highs or treble. And then even farther, you can select the range of your bass and treble controls. And then has a tone defeat, so when you hit that, it disables these controls. So it doesn't matter what you do with these, it doesn't affect it at all. And then like that, the tone defeat's off, you can adjust it. So volume, standard balance, has a subsonic filter, the high filter. I usually leave those on because they're good for when you're listening to the radio. Really helps to cut out any of that really high-pitched static. Your external processor loop, monitors 1 and 2, and your dubbing. Has a loudness control. I usually leave those on. Muting button we already went over. Stereo mode selector, you'd say for stereo or mono. FM muting, and your FM high blend. And then this also has Quartz Lock, and then has selectable FM de-emphasis and wide or narrow IF band. And then you can also, for your meter here, you can select the indicator for signal or multipath, and then of course your tuning control. But one of the kind of unique things about these, which really makes them neat, is if you notice, the indicator is not centered. That's because it moves as you're turning. And if you can see there, the ribbon cable is uncoiling. That's how they achieve that. So you have your dial cord. It's attached to the display board here. The display board, it's kind of a multi-purpose circuit traces, because you can see it's the circuit traces here, but it's laminated on both sides. Instead of being the copper traces on the circuit board, then, you know, epoxy overcoated, they made copper traces, and then they're coated on both sides with plastic. And you can see it's even flexible on here, but it terminates where they're soldered to the connectors. But then it's completely coated, goes through, and then comes, same thing here, that board comes up to the display board here. That's how they achieve the movable frequency display. So, and then, like I say, this has Quartz Lock. So, right there, if I turn the Quartz Lock on, you'll see, if I turn the dial, you can see the display moving there, it doesn't unlock. It holds it locked. So I unlock it, you can see it's now, hear the static when you're rocking it back and forth. Or if you have that Quartz Lock on, it keeps the station locked in. Back down here at college, see if yeah, okay. Yeah, let's find something else. Oh, what's... There's a classic rock station. So you can see, right there I got the quartz light on. I turn the Quartz Lock on. Like I say, you can see it holds it. So she's And last thing, this is in very nice condition. You can see the first thing on these usually takes a lot of abuse is these corners because they're not rounded over. They're a fairly sharp edge. So all of the corners on this are in very good condition, the whole way across, down both sides. It does have a little scratch. Gotta find it here, get the reflection right. There is actually a, I don't know if I can even get it to show. There's a slight scratch. There you go, you can see it. Slight scratch right there and a little bit here, but that's about it for damage. Then the top cover, the wood cover, is in immaculate condition also, so usually you see these will have a bunch of dings. People have dropped stuff and it hit the front edge of the faceplate there over the years. And like I say, this one, other than those tiny little scratches right there, the brushed finish is in great shape. So overall, very nice stereo, ready to go back to the customer and be put back into use for several more years of listening enjoyment.